This is Johnnie Lloyd with Johnnie Lloyd and Associates, and this is an opportunity I am taking to provide some insight for greater accountability, a greater sense of peace for churches and nonprofits, specifically in questions that they will consider and answering some questions of concern because now is the time to make some decisions if you have not applied for the stimulus. Um, the intent is to answer some of your questions and to give you insightful information so you can move forward. The first thing I want to provide is this is actually from Money Magazine, stimulus information that was updated on April 10th and was originally published on April 7th. You could go to https://money.com/SBA-loans-stimulus. And this is about the PPP and the EIDL. Now, the reason that this is up on the screen is so you can see a comparison. I like compare and contrast. So you can look at the two side by side and make some determination and see what's available. So the administrator under PPP, you need to go to your lender. Look at who you are banking with. Most of the banks are part of this program. So contact your lender directly. Contact your bank directly. If you have a mortgage, of course, they're your lender. But if you don't have a mortgage, contact the bank you are sending and that's servicing your organization. One of the things I want you to consider before you do that or as you do that is to make sure that you look at your articles of incorporation to see if you need to have a board meeting to check to see if you need some agreement before you go out for a loan. Just peek at your articles of incorporation in your, and that could make a difference. However, keep in mind that it does not require, if you do the PPP, it does not require any collateral. Just keep that in mind. Okay, so now, as you can see, the PPP and the EIDL, one of the considerations is if majority of your expenses as a nonprofit and or a church is in payroll, then consider looking at the PPP. It does not mean that you can't apply for both. However, you want to apply for the one that's going to give you the greatest flexibility during this time of crisis, and you don't want to necessarily go out there and apply for something you don't need. For much smaller churches that may not have little to no payroll, you might want to consider the EIDL. The PPP is really heavy payroll. And when I say heavy payroll, that's not just dollar amount, that's part of the way that you get forgiven. And I'll talk about that in just a second. So you look at the terms, 2 years up to 30 years. Remember that the EIDL, even though it doesn't show, the minimum loan amount on here is $200,000. So it's no loans under $200K, but it can give you an advance up to $10,000 base in up to $10,000. And right now they're considering the number of employees you have. Now, just as a pause, both applications are fairly easy. I have provided them and completed them and walked some clients through the application process. However, it is imperative that you read the application and answer it appropriately. So the term is very important. The interest rate for the PPP is 1% versus 3.75, and for nonprofits on the EIDL is a lower interest rate. The deferral period and prepay allowed, you can pay it in advance. After this is over, if you can pay the balance off, you're welcome to do that, and there's no penalty, okay? Now, the critical piece here is, what can you use it for? Now, even though the EIDL can be used for payroll, the PPP was established to forgive payroll. Specifically, it was established to forgive payroll. Notice that on a mortgage, it doesn't pay your mortgage payment, it pays for interest. And then, of course, 100% of the rent based on the situation. And in all cases, I really recommend people go out to www.sba.gov to get any updates and clarity on anything that is related to the stimulus package. It is critical that you stay in that arena, or that the people that you're working with are up to date regarding that. So now, collateral. Again, no collateral is required under the PPP, only for the EIDLs for any loans over $25,000. Now, that's almost an oxymoron, because it says that under the EIDL, it says that no loans under 200K. So really keep that in mind. Under the EIDL, if you don't need 200K for your payroll benefits accounts and all of that, that's probably not the loan that you want to go after. And keep in mind that each one of these are a loan. However, they do have a forgiveness aspect to the loan. Under the EIDL, there's a one-time up to $10,000, they call it a grant. However, it is based on the number, it appears to be based on the number of payroll people that you have. That is not including 1099 employees. Remember that on either side, it does not include 1099 employees unless that is changed. It does not include that, because 1099 self-employed people go out and they apply under the programs for themselves. So just keep that in mind. The other thing about the benefits under PPP, it says payroll benefits. As you know, your pastor may be getting housing allowance. Now you need to contact, in that regard, you need to verify the housing allowance is considered part of the payroll if you go in for the PPP. A couple things that some people look at, and I just want to address these, especially as a nonprofit and especially for real as a church. There's some questions that you may be looking at, like, do you keep autonomy as a church, or do you lose your First Amendment rights, the separation of church and state? The answer to that, in all the documents that I've read and on the SBA website, says no. Now, there are some other things that you need to look at. Nothing that I will discuss here, but you just need to go out to the SBA website to look at that. Nothing critical. But here's a couple things that some churches may be looking at. Does it matter my size? As long as you have under 500 employees, you are under the PPP. You can be under this program. The other thing is, what if I'm functioning as a church, but I'm not recognized as a 501c3 as it relates to the IRS? You do not have a determination letter from the IRS. You can still apply for the PPP or the EIDL. Your question may be, what about our credit rating? Credit ratings are not a consideration as it relates to the stimulus. What if we do not have a relationship with a banking institution that is a service provider or loan administrator? Then you need to go to the SBA .gov and get a list of service providers, or you can apply on their website. Okay, but you have to set up an account and you can apply on that website. The quickest and best way to do it is to go through your banking institution. In the majority of nonprofits, and especially churches, are with a bank. So go to your bank. Okay, what if this process intimidates us? The question is very real, okay? Because sometimes government applications or government grants and things of that nature in the past have been very paper focused, is a lot of questions, is very detail oriented. This application on both sides is really easy and it's very upfront. You will have to provide some information on the PPP side. However, even on the EIDL side, you need to know what your EIN number is. If you remember that no one owns under the EIDL, it will ask you about ownership. It is the church is not owned by a person. So just keep that in mind. And again, just reach out if you have any concerns or questions. You will get my contact information at the end. And also, I just want to make it easy. This is a critical time for all of us, and there's no one that is being unscathed by this. Where a lot of ministries have been fined in the past because of their tithe and offering, and a lot of nonprofits have been fined in the past because of the giving donations. Some of that has dried up. A matter of fact, according to empirical data that is on websites that I've looked up, they said between 30 and 50% of the giving has decreased under this crisis. So I have a few that I am currently personally aware of where it has dried up to 80%. So one of the things that I would like you to consider is to remember that you want to see your ministry on the other side. So this stimulus could be a way for that to happen, and for your sheep to be safe, and for you to make it on the other side as the economy grows. Now, what about getting help? Make sure you reach out and get help from the SBA, from your service providers. If you have anyone in the accounting arena, that's a great place to do it. And just reach out and collaborate with other ministries that have applied already. And over communication is a great thing right now during this time. Continue to over communicate, not under communicate. And then if you don't have what you need, don't be afraid to invest in a person or a company to help you with this. This is the only place I'm going to offer you a concern. It is not a red flag. However, it is something that I need to address. The thing that I need to address is accountability. The PPP, part of what they're saying is 75% of this can be forgiven, right? 75% of it is the number that they're saying that they want you to spend on payroll. So if you get the PPP as an example, and you spend 50% on payroll and 50% on everything else, then guess what? You're going to end up with a loan. Part of it's going to be a loan. So look at getting some support to make sure that your paperwork is ready, because they're going to verify the payroll, and it includes benefits. The only benefit that you need to confirm is housing allowance for pastors or ministry. That's the only thing. And remember that debt is included, can be included, and the key may be, is it forgiven? Remember that utilities are included. Remember that mortgage interest alone is included. It is not for the principal. You can pay the principal, but it's not for the principal. Remember that the PPP is set up. That is the term. It is for it's Paycheck Protection Program. Okay, that's what it's for. So just keep that in mind, and as you move forward, knowing that that is the case. And forgiveness guarantee is based on 75% of the payroll. The EIDL up to only $10,000 in advance is under the forgiveness part. So just keep that in mind. And again, if you have any questions or concerns, don't hesitate to reach out, connect with us. There will be some other information that will be provided under the stimulus, because our heart is for nonprofits and as well as churches. Now, what we're doing through this season is we want to see you on the other side. So the time to apply is now. Are you eligible? The key for that is, are you a nonprofit? Are you a church? Even though you have not been recognized as from the IRS, if the answer to that is yes, remember there is no application fee at the bank to apply. Remember, you are not sacrificing autonomy or your First Amendment rights. Remember that you need to discuss with leadership from the governance perspective if your articles of incorporation require you to get approval for any loan. And there are no personal guarantors required. The only other thing is follow the guidelines for forgiveness. Follow the guidelines for forgiveness and make sure you have someone on your team that is keeping up with this and you are accountable, as well as you have the supporting documentation. So when the time comes, you'll be able to get this as forgiveness. Now, there's one thing that I forgot, I did not mention. Remember, under the PPP, that after you get the loan, you have 8 weeks that they show that you're going to pay out the money. So it's for the purpose of payroll. Just keep that in mind. And again, reach out to us, and always keep in mind that you want to see your organization and your church on the other side of this crisis. This is Johnnie with Johnnie Lloyd and Associates with just a segment of Excuse Me, Mind Your Business as you mind the business of your life. Thank you.